I'm Edmund de Waal, I'm a potter and I write books. And here I am in my studio in South London, surrounded, rather weirdly, by a huge amount of pots and books and images and textiles by an extraordinary Danish artist called Axel Salto. He's a hugely significant artist because he straddles all kinds of disciplines. He crosses lots of different boundaries between ceramics. I've got one in my hands here, which is completely fabulous. Between ceramics and printmaking and painting and designing things, but also poetry. And this kind of combination of kind of energy across different fields drew me to him 25 years ago when I first encountered his work. And so I've been sort of nurturing this sort of this secret passion for Salto. So for this exhibition, Playing with Fire, which is this conversation I'm having with Salto in 3 museums around Europe, there are hundreds of works by Salto that are going to be displayed, pots and books and graphic work and textiles, extraordinary work, and my own work. So I'm currently in the middle of trying to make a major new work, a major new installation, which is a response, a kind of affectionate, teasing, talking back to Salto about what he's doing in his work, and bring my own work in to conversation with him. So it's at this wonderful sort of fissile, difficult stage of trying things out. And of course, trying things out in the studio is a great joy because that's what this studio here in London is all about. It's a place for testing out ideas and testing out materials and testing out all kinds of processes. And I'll show you some of the things that I'm doing in response to Salto. Moment of truth and all that. This is the big kiln, the gas kiln. And these are, I hope, the vessels for the Salto project. Been cooling for a couple of days. Okay. This is part of what we're trying to do. Is to write into porcelain. Write words, poems into porcelain, into very, very, very thin porcelain, which is going to, again, is me talking aloud to Salto. And these are a text about metamorphosis, about changing one thing to another. And needless to say, they haven't survived the fire. Hang on, let me see this one. This is basically trying to do an impossible thing. Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, that one's not worked. This one actually has worked. This is a beautiful guan glaze. The words have almost disappeared, but you can just about... Well, I can read them. I always think that actually, to be honest, I don't care how much rubbish, how many things go wrong. If one thing really works, I don't care how many things go wrong. So this is going to be a wall. It's a triptych. Going to be 3 vitrines, 3 glass-fronted cabinets, 1 installation, which is part of the room that I'm making. This installation for the Salto show, and it's started. It's 3 elements. It's these porcelain vessels. I've just opened the kiln, and incredibly beautiful, beaten and oxidized silver, and then these tiles. And it's kind of like a bit of music, with melodies being picked up, themes being picked up, of the silver and the light coming and going, and then the words and the tiles coming and going too. Well, it's like sort of
groups of words for me, and then pauses, and then repetitions, and then bigger pauses. So this has to be very empty, and then it has to be fuller again here. But all the time using these particular elements to pick up on this conversation, this thing I've got going with Salto. It's beginning to work. But what you want to do is when you walk into this room that I'm making, this porcelain room I'm making, you just want it to sing. You just want it to be just completely itself.
So like all good projects, there are kind of challenges, and with Salto, they come in different waves. The first thing is, you know, I thought I knew his work. There's just the sort of basic, embarrassing kind of realization that you've taken on something where the depth of someone's practice is just infinitely greater than you'd expected. So, you know, I knew him as a potter, you know, these extraordinary vessels with these great running glazes, these great sort of metamorphic glazes. And I knew them and loved them. And I knew his writing about them, where he talks about all pots really having some element of fear in them or anxiety in them. And you can sort of see that. It's an anxious making object. And I knew that he was a great colorist. So here he is trying out different colorways for patterns. And these are just beautiful. This is 80 years old. But then the thing that really challenged me was I realized that the heart of his practice, and this has been so interesting and complicated for me, was this idea about play, that in some deep way, all creativity comes back to mucking around, to trying something out, to sort of the experiential, and that actually he's a wonderful children's book he did, which is him getting children to make books and make images together out of stamps, that where you stamp things down. And he writes about this, and he says, do you know what? This is what children should be doing. Children should be playing with things in this way. And then I came across this incredible image in his book, which is all about pots breaking and falling down and crashing, and his kind of joy in this idea that at the very heart of creativity is play and destruction, play and breaking, making and breaking. So I'm in the middle of it. I'm in the middle of this process of research and thinking, of putting together different things, objects and textiles and images, to see whether I can make an exhibition. I can make a presentation of his work, which is compelling and brings across why I think he's so wonderful.
So this is a kind of rather wonderful moment for me, because the exhibition is now in Wakefield, this very beautiful David Chipperfield museum, the Hepworth. It's a kind of wonderful space to show the work, but there's also a rather beautiful and deep connection for me with Wakefield, which is that decades ago when I was apprenticed, 45 years ago when I was apprenticed in Canterbury to Geoffrey Whiting, a wonderful potter, this extraordinary man used to come and buy pots. He was called Bill Ismay. Small, bearded, always wore a beret. He was born, raised, lived his whole life in a small 2-up, 2-down terraced house in Welbeck Street in Wakefield. He was a librarian on an incredibly small salary. He traversed the country, making friends with potters, buying their work. And if you rang the bell in his house in Welbeck Street, this bearded, beret-wearing figure would open the door, usher you in, and there were pots absolutely everywhere. In the kitchen, towers of tea bowls and teacups, and teapots by Bernard Leach, by Cardew, by Lucy Ree and Hans Cooper, by Magdalena Odundo. And you could choose a tea bowl by Hamada, the great Japanese potter, and he'd run a dishcloth across the first layer of grime and make you a cup of tea and talk absolutely passionately and cogently about why pots mattered. Extraordinary, beautiful connection to potters and their work. And when I was living in Sheffield down the road and was beginning my life, he'd visit me. He used to write me letters, and I have lots of them here. Many of them shamefully asking me why I haven't written back to him, and asking when I would next come and visit him, which I did. He's a tremendous, deep, iconic reason to think about ceramics and think about this city together. So Wakefield, not just a beautiful museum, but also a place where studio ceramics have a deep, deep history, special place. For this exhibition, for the first time in the UK, I'm showing this brand new group of works. Huge vessels made at the Tommerup ceramics workshop in Denmark with extraordinary people, fired in vast kilns, pots, some of them bigger than me, made out of a red clay that fires into this black, almost silvery black surface. And you can see here on these vessels that I've inscribed fragments of poetry deep into the damp clay. You can see how the fire has moved across the pots, and most importantly, you can see where flame and clay and text have come together. In lots of ways, this is me talking to Salto, talking about what he calls the burning now, how fire and clay and hands all come together. It's wonderful. These are pots you can touch, pots you can actually embrace. They're that big. And I'm actually completely thrilled by them. I think they're a marvelous part of this conversation with Salto.